What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Time. I am your host, Jacob Cutler, the Fantasy Guy, and today, you know what it is. I'm back. I'm here to bring you the fantasy MVPs for our season that we just had, right? And now this is going to be through week 17 because, honestly, right, I was supposed to do it last week, came down with a severe case of food poisoning. Now back on my feet, feel fine, feel totally fine. So we're going to get into it. So we're going to basically go through as if the season ended 2 weeks ago for week 17. I mean, I know most of your fantasy seasons ended. I know a lot of people had, or not a lot, but I know some people had, championships extending into week 18. I'm going to have to advise against that going forward just because we saw last week, right? A lot of those guys, those main guys that you would have relied on, they sat and didn't really nearly get the production that you could have got just by ending the season in week 17, right? But what a thriller of a week we had last week. Now, that is how you end a season. Holy moly, what a thriller between the Raiders and the Chargers. Man, did Brandon Staley screw his team out of the playoffs. Holy moly. But we are back, and we are going to get into all of your fantasy MVPs this season, right? We're going to go over the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, kickers, and defenses. We're going to get into all of it. If at any point during this video you like what you're seeing, please smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, just tap on that bell notification. That way, anytime new episodes drop, and they drop every Wednesday and Friday, but we got a very special presentation for you this week, so be on the lookout for that. But normally videos dropping every Wednesday and Friday. We're always dropping the knowledge for you. We're always dropping. It's literally right at your feet. You got to look down, pick it up, shove it in the head here, shake it around, and boom, better fantasy player and a more knowledgeable football human being, right? Because that is what it's about. If you're not growing, you are dying, right? So always look for the opportunities to expand your knowledge. Without further ado, let's get into it, and when we're going to be talking about the fantasy MVP leaders. Alrighty, let's get into this. Let's not waste any more time. We're going to talk about the top fantasy players for the season. That's it. Nice and easy video. Probably going to be a quick video. Hopefully I say that and then it ends up being a long-ass video. But I think it's going to be a quick video. Let's get into it. We're going to start off with the quarterbacks. Your number 5 fantasy quarterback this season through week 17. That's the important thing. Through week 17 is none other than the man that should win comeback player of the year. That should definitely get some MVP votes. That is Mr. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is going to be your number 5 fantasy QB this season. What a solid option to have at quarterback. Holy moly. So remember Joey B when you're drafting your quarterbacks next season. Remember how good of a season he had this season coming off an injury. Highest game, you guys see it on the screen, 40.10. 40 points against Baltimore, dominating. Absolutely dominating. Joey B, your number 5 quarterback this season. Number 4, your number 4 quarterback this season is Patrick Mahomes, who had an outstanding second half of the season, had an amazing second half of the season, finishing off as your number 4 quarterback this week for fantasy, or for this year for fantasy, I should say. Highest game against the Raiders, that comedic performance that the Raiders put on against the Chiefs, 36.24 points, dominating, absolutely dominating. And if you had Pat Mahomes, started off slow, kind of started like the Chiefs started off slow. He was coming out firing. He was throwing the ball over the field, getting you points, and then he kind of slowed down, kind of picked it back up towards the end of the season. So Patrick Mahomes is your number 4 fantasy quarterback this season. Your number 3 quarterback this season is a man who doesn't look to be slowing down anytime soon, and that is the GOAT, Tom Brady. Who would have thought in 2022 that Tom Brady would still be your number 3 fantasy quarterback? The man is incredible. The man is incredible. Highest game this season, 37.74 against Miami. Wow, 37 points. I mean, look at all these guys. You're going to notice a common theme amongst these guys that are the top 5 quarterbacks, top 5 running backs, right? You're going to notice a common theme amongst them. However, Tom Brady, Tom Brady just doesn't seem to be getting worse, doesn't seem to be slowing down. So watch out for Tom. I mean, Tom is always going to be, I guess, a fantasy pickup quarterback as long as he's in the league. So Tom Brady is your number 3 quarterback this season. Your number 2 quarterback this season is the guy who wow, put on an unbelievable performance, and that is Justin Herbert. I mean, holy moly, Herbie, Joey and Justin, oh my goodness, they are a different breed of quarterbacks than we have seen. I mean, I'm being dead serious. These two guys are straight killers, straight assassins. I have not seen quarterbacks like them enter the league in a long time. So Justin Herbert this season, highest game against Cleveland, 42.82 points. I mean, absolutely balling out. So Justin Herbert is going to be your number 2 starting quarterback this season. Your number one starting quarterback is Mr. Josh Allen. Yes, he was number 1 last season, and he has held on to that title this season. So Josh Allen will repeat as back-to-back number 1 fantasy quarterbacks for the season. Big news there, because I don't know if he's going to do it 3 times in a row, but if you want to take that bet next year, you can. But watch out. There's never been a back-to-back fantasy quarterback champion to date. Right now, Josh Allen has gone back-to-back. We shall see if he can do it 3 times in a row. But Josh Allen's highest game, 37.22 points against Washington. That Buffalo team struggling, then looking good, struggling, then looking good, struggling, then looking good. We will see what happens in the playoffs, but Josh Allen is going to be your number 1 fantasy quarterback this season. Moving on to your running backs. So we're going to move on to the running backs. Your number 5 running back this season was, and what an unfortunate way for his season to end, was Leonard Fournette, who has found the fountain of youth, even though he's still young, but he has somehow been able to just totally turn his career around. Seemingly looked good in Jacksonville for a couple years, then fell off. They were trying to get rid of him. Now finding new life in Tampa Bay. Not that hard when you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, but Leonard Fournette, highest game this season, 40.6 points. Balling out. So Leonard Fournette is going to be your number 5 stardom running back this season. Number 5 best running back this season. Your number 4 best running back this season. I got to give it to the kid. The kid is tough, man. The kid is tough. Now remember, this is through week 17, so he tacked onto that total in week 18, but that is Najee Harris. Yes, Najee Harris through week 17 was your number 4 running back this season. Wow, this kid is going to be something special. And of course, he has to be on the Steelers. Of course, right? So Najee Harris is going to be your number 4 your number 4 running back this season. I keep wanting to say start because I'm so used to it. Your number 4 running back this season. Highest game was 28.10 points against Minnesota. And I believe that was that week 17 game. So Najee Harris absolutely balling out in his last game. Getting up there, getting on the list. Good for him. Good for the kid, right? Number 3, your number 3 running back this season is Joe Mixon. Yes, Joe Mixon from the Bengals. Dominating. I mean, what a hell of a running back. Holy moly. Joe is turning into an outstanding running back to have. Joe's biggest game this season was 30.30 points, right? 30.3 points versus Pittsburgh. Dominating. Remember, the Bengals swept the Ravens. They swept the Steelers, and then they get swept by the poop stains, the Browns. Unfreaking believable. But Joe Mixon, your number 3 running back this season at 30.30 points against Pittsburgh. Absolutely outstanding option at running back if you need him. Your number two running back this season was Austin Eckler. Yes, Austin Eckler. Who would have thought, right? They got Melvin Gordon to be the guy, and then Austin just slowly but surely just clawed his way to the starting lineup to be that starting running back. Austin Eckler is a hell of a running back and a hell of an option. So never doubt Austin Eckler if you're drafted next season. He is a solid fantasy option. Highest game this season. Oh, look who it is against Pittsburgh again. 38.5 points, right? 38.5 points, absolutely going bananas in that game. So Austin Ekeler is going to be your number 2 running back this season overall. And your number 1, I mean, real no shocker here. I'm wearing their jersey, right? I'm repping Andrew Luck. Welcome back, Andrew Luck, to the media, I guess, right? It was good to see Andrew Luck on Monday night for those of you who watch the college football game. Your number 1 running back this year. I mean, if one person wasn't healthy, he would have been number 2, but he's number 1, and that is Jonathan Taylor, JT the Jet, right? Jonathan Taylor, 51.9 points against Buffalo. I mean, holy moly, going absolutely nuclear this season. I mean, look at the difference in points, right? His total points scored were 346. Austin Ekeler's total points scored were 282. I mean, 60 points we're talking here. 60 points we're talking here. That's 3 games. So, wow. JT, Jonathan Taylor, the kid, what a running back to watch, right? And super humble, just a good guy. So Jonathan Taylor is going to be your number 1 running back this year. Watch out for the kid. I mean, it looks like it's going to be between him and Derrick Henry next season for the first draft in running backs. We shall see what happens, but that's going to do it for your running backs. Let's move on to the wide receivers. Your number 5 wide receiver this year is Justin Jefferson. Yes, the kid makes it back onto the top 5 list, and the kid is a total top 5 option. So, Justin Jefferson, if you need a receiver, right, when you're drafting next year, solid option at number 1. Justin Jefferson's biggest game this season was 33.2 points against their rival Green Bay when they were at home, absolutely going bananas on them. So Justin Jefferson is your number 5 wide receiver this year. Your number 4 wide receiver this year. Wow. And I think that's all you can say about this guy is just wow. Is Ja'Marr Chase. Holy moly. I mean, I know Joey and Ja'Marr won a lot of people their fantasy championships in that week 17 matchup. I mean, what more could you ask for? His biggest game this season was that last game, was 52.10 points against Kansas City. And if you were watching that game, wow, this guy looked like the best receiver in the NFL. Not just the best rookie, but the best receiver in the NFL. Ja'Marr Chase is a scary weapon. So Ja'Marr Chase is your number 4 overall wide receiver this season. Your number 3 overall wide receiver this season is Davante Adams. Yes, Davante Adams, solid, just always solid. I mean, what more could you say about the guy? He's just the epitome of solid, right? Biggest game this season, 32.10 points against the Bengals, and that thriller of a game as well, the game that went to overtime, that no kicker wanted to win, right? So that game was great. Davante Adams is going to be your number 3 overall receiver this season. We'll see what happens in the offseason. I'm pretty positive he stays in Green Bay, but if not, this guy is one hell of a solid receiver, and if you get him the right quarterback, we could be seeing numbers like this for the rest of his career. So, Davante Adams, your number 3 wide receiver overall this season. Moving on to your number 2. Moving on to your number 2, and that is the man who you better hide your chain. He's coming, right? You better hide your chains. Deebo Samuel, baby. Deebo. Basically the lifeline of the San Francisco 49ers, right? They go and stop when Deebo goes and stops. Holy moly, this guy just takes over the team. Deebo Samuel, going to be your number 2 wide receiver this season. Who would have thought, right? Brandon Ayuk was supposed to be the guy, and Deebo just took over. Literally the best rushing receiver I've ever seen in my entire life. Biggest game this season, and he's going to be happy about this, against his bitter rivals, the Seattle Seahawks, 31.7 points, absolutely dominating the Seattle Seahawks. I believe they split the season series there, going 1-1. Those are the games you want. You want the games against your bitter rivals. I believe they did split, if I remember correctly. But Deebo Samuel, wow. Wow, and wow even more with that game last week. I mean, he basically got them back into the game. So Deebo Samuel is going to be your number 2 wide receiver overall for the season. Your number 1, and again, this one's no real shocker. It's the man who who challenged Megatron. I'll give it to him. He challenged Megatron, and that is Cooper Kupp. Yes, Cooper Kupp dominating this season. Absolutely dominating this season. Look what happens when you give him an actual quarterback. He's an amazing receiver. Not just a good receiver, he's an amazing receiver. So Cooper Kupp, again, look at these point totals. His biggest game was 32.6 points against Matt Stafford's old team, the Detroit Lions. Overall, though, look at this. 348 points compared to Deebo Samuel at 280. Another 60-point gap. Another 60-point gap. I mean, talk about dominance. Talk about dominance, man. Cooper Kupp, your number one wide receiver this year. And if you've been following along this entire season that I've put together, our first season here at Fantasy Time, you know that I was telling everybody from the beginning that Cooper Kupp was going to have a massive season. I will toot my own horn here because no one else is going to toot it for me. I predicted that Cooper Kupp was going to have this success. So what this means, listen to what I am saying. I may not be right all the time, but I'm right a lot of the time. So Cooper Kupp is your number one wide receiver this year, and he ain't slowing down. I think those three guys, boom, 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 Jamar and Justin as well, I guess I should say, but those three guys for sure, I guarantee you we most likely will see them again next season. So remember these five guys, because I'm pretty positive that a lot of these guys we are going to see again next season. Next up, we got the tight ends. Your number 5 tight end this season, and it's a shocker. I was shocked when I saw it. I had like triple taked because he didn't seem to be doing good during the season. So that is Kyle Pitts. Yeah, Kyle Pitts, the rookie, somehow made it to the top 5 of the tight ends for the fantasy year, right? His biggest game, 22.4 points against the Jets. It was kind of an up and down season. I mean, I thought you could rely on him a lot more than you were able to rely on him. Apparently, you could rely on him with this. Very interesting, though, that he ended up being your top 5, your number 5, I guess, tight end for the season. But good for him. Good for him, because Kyle Pitts came into the season with all the hype in the world surrounding him. So it's nice to see him get the success that we all kind of thought that he was going to generate and going to get. So Kyle Pitts is your number 5 tight end this season. Your number 4 tight end this season, and this guy I was preaching the last half of the season, that is Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz for the Cowboys is Dak Prescott's favorite target. Whether he wants to admit it or not, Dalton Schultz is his security blanket. He goes to him when he's not feeling Cooper, when he's not feeling CeeDee, when he's not feeling Cedric, when he's not feeling Gallup. He goes to Dalton Schultz, right? Dalton Schultz' biggest game this season, 23 points even against the Eagles, right? Against their rivals. Dalton Schultz, remember that name next season, because tight ends, I can tell you, is an extremely tough position to pick, to draft, to just see overall success in it. I mean, you can see here, look at the point totals that you're seeing. They're drastic, right? They're extremely drastic from 1 and 2 to 3, 4, and 5. The point totals are drastic. So we'll look at that. But again, Dalton Schultz, solid option at tight end. Number 4 overall for the season. Your number 3 overall tight end for the season is Mr. George Kittle. Yes, the guy who missed 3 games, still your number 3 tight end for the season. Biggest game this season, 35.10 points against Seattle, right? It's nice to see. That's what you want, right? You want your biggest games to be against your rival, right? Deebo's biggest game was against them. George's biggest game was against them. That is what you want, right? Come out and ball out. George Kittle, always going to be a great option. Always going to be a great option at tight end. So George Kittle, your number 3 tight end this season. Your number 2 tight end, and ladies and gentlemen, he has been dethroned. He has been dethroned. Your number 2 tight end this season is Travis Kelce. Yes. Back-to-back tight end leader. I think back-to-back. I don't think anybody's beaten him since he's came into the league. But Travis Kelce finally has been dethroned. His biggest game this season, 36.10 points against the Chargers. Look at that. this is another good thing to notice too. Look at all the people balling out against their rivals, right? So that's another mental note to make for next season. When your players are playing their rivals, it's a different story. You know, they may be struggling, but look at this. I mean, more times than not, a lot of these guys have had their highest scoring games against their rivals, and that's what you want to do. So make a mental note of that going into next season, right? When you guys are playing and you see that you guys are playing your rival, it's just something, food for thought, something to think about. But Travis Kelce is going to be your number 2 tight end this season. Your number one tight end this season, and he just went on a monstrous tear. Like, if you had him, you know what tear I'm talking about. But that is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews had an extremely slow season, and then like week 10, week 9, it just boom, I'm here, baby. I am ready to go. And it was just like 30 point, 20 point, 30 point, 20 point, 30 point, 20 point. It was crazy. His highest game this season was 36.2 points against the Colts. I mean, he absolutely balled out no matter who is at quarterback, right? And I think Tyler Huntley liked him even more than Lamar did, right? Lamar would go to the receivers. Tyler Huntley just focused on Mark Andrews the entire time. So Mark Andrews is going to be your number 1 overall tight end for the season. Let's look at the kickers. Because it was extremely competitive this season for kickers. Your number 5 kicker this season is Matt Gay. Yes, Matt Gay for the Rams. Highest game, 15 points against Jacksonville. And you're going to see here, a lot of these kickers are like within 1, 2, 3, 4 points of each other. It was extremely close this year for kickers. So, good season for kickers. 151 points. It's a decent season. Not bad, right? So Matt Gay, I think he's reliable. Matt Gay is reliable. We'll see what happens. He's kind of getting a little bit older. That's the only thing. Is it better to go with a younger kicker? We'll see here because, or is it better to go with someone who has a little bit more experience, right? A little bit more of a veteran, right? So Matt Gay is going to be your number 5 overall kicker for the season. Your number 4 overall kicker for the season was the hero from Sunday night, and that is Daniel Carlson. And indoors, ladies and gentlemen, this man does not miss. This man is a freaking laser leg. Like, indoors, he is not missing kicks. So Daniel Carlson, 21 points overall against Dallas, his biggest game, tying with Matt Gay for the season, right at that 151.5 mark. But again, Daniel Carlson, young guy, laser leg. Raiders play in a dome, right? Half of their games are in a dome, so that is something to think about, right? Half of those kicks or half of those games, you have a very good chance where he's not going to miss any kicks. So, especially, and look at that, at Dallas, right? So 21 points on the road at Dallas in what? A dome. So, again, Daniel Carlson, solid kicker when they're playing indoors. And that's just something to kind of mental note, food for thought. Your number 3 is the rookie. How many rookies are going to have on this list? I love to see it. Is Evan McPherson from the Bengals, the kid with ice in his veins, sending the Bengals to the AFC North Division title. It was a gimme field goal, but he still made it. His highest game, 21 points at Vegas, right? So a lot of these young kickers who don't have experience kicking in the elements, you're going to see that their best games are coming in domes. Something to think about next season, right? New kickers, young kickers, maybe not having that little outdoor experience, right? Not really getting that too much weather experience yet, right? So focus on when they are playing inside, because it seems that they are having their biggest games when they're playing inside, right? Indoors. So Evan McPherson, nice job, kid. Your number 3 overall kicker for the season. Your number 2 overall kicker, and this shouldn't shock anybody. Your number 2 overall kicker, and let's just be frank, he's the greatest kicker in the history of the NFL. That is Justin Tucker. And okay, Adam Vinatieri might have something to say, but in my opinion, Justin Tucker is about as lights out can get, in my opinion. But Justin Tucker is your number 2 overall kicker this season. 16.5 points against Detroit in a dome. I just like when I say something and then, something later on comes up and it's like, oh, well, look, in a dome, right? So remember that when a kicker is in a dome, more times than not, you are going to have a good fantasy week. But Justin Tucker, I mean, he got that with his 62-yard bomb to save the game, or 66-yard bomb, whatever it was, the ridiculous field goal that that somehow went in. But Justin Tucker, your number 2 overall kicker this season. Your number one overall kicker this season was Nick Folk for the New England Patriots. Biggest game was 21 points at Nashville, the Music City, right in Tennessee. And, it makes sense because you have a rookie quarterback. They kind of struggled to score at the beginning of the season, so he was kicking a lot more. And then towards the end of the season, he kind of got hurt, which was kind of unfortunate. But Nick Folk, though, a solid kicker, and he's going to be around for a while. So Nick Folk is your number 1 overall kicker for the season. And last but not least, we got the defenses. Let's go into this. Your number 5 defense this season was the Indianapolis Colts. Solid defense. Just choked away their playoff chances, man. Just choked it away. I mean, you lose to the abysmal Jacksonville Jaguars. You're going to do JT like that? Carson Wentz, Indianapolis Colts, biggest game this season, 18 points against Houston. Disappointing. I guess that's the best way to describe the Colts season. Disappointing. Your number 4, and especially because the rest of these teams are all playoff teams. That's one thing I just noticed as well. The rest of these teams are all playoff teams, and the Colts, they couldn't get the job done. Your number 4 defense this season was the New Orleans Saints, who is just a nasty defense year in, year out. I mean, you think that they're not going to be good, you think that they're going to struggle, and then their defense just turns it on like halfway through the season. It's ridiculous. Their biggest game this season was 21 points against New England. That New Orleans defense, again, safe defense to take year in and year out. They may start off slow, but they get it going. They rev up those engines and they get going. Your number 3 defense this season was the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills' biggest game this season was 26 points at Miami. Shaky season for Buffalo. They got the number 3 seed, so it worked out somewhat for them, but definitely not as good as it should have been. Definitely not as good as it could have been. If they just stayed together, they finally were able to get the running game going. For those who had Devin Singletary, finally able to get that running game going. The defense stepped up all season. The defense played well. It was just mainly the offense inconsistency. But the Buffalo Bills is your number 3 defense this season. Your number 2 defense this season is New England Patriots. Yes, I mean, do you expect anything else other than a good defense from Bill Belichick? Because if he's not going to have a good offense, you for damn sure he's going to have a good defense, right? Their biggest game this season was 28 points at Atlanta. Atlanta is just abysmal. But the New England Patriots are going to be a scary team to watch. I mean, we're going into Patriots Bills 3, right? We're going into Patriots Bills 3, so we're going to see what happens. They're in Buffalo again. We'll see what the weather's like. I have to think again, if the weather is crappy, it is 100% going to favor the Patriots and Bill Belichick's offense. So we shall see what is going to happen on Saturday. It's going to be very interesting. But Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, your number 2 defense this season, and your number 1 defense this season. And I mean, if you're watching the NFL season all season long, you know who it is. It's the Dallas Cowboys. What a scary, scary machine Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy have put together there on the defensive side of the ball for Dallas. Holy moly. Micah Parsons, Travion Diggs, I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, right? Randy Gregory. I mean, holy moly. This defense is for real. This is a for real defense. And going into the playoffs, Niners are going to have their hands full. Jimmy's going to have his hands full with that defense, so I'm curious to see that game. A classic rivalry game. You got to love it. Cowboys versus the 49ers on Sunday. Oh, man. You got to love it. But the Dallas Cowboys defense, best game this season, 24 points at Washington. They are going to be your number 1 overall defense for the year. And that'll do it. That's all I got for you on this year's Fantasy Leaders, right? Remember, think about what I said. Internalize it, right? Use it for food for thought going into next season. I'm excited for next season. I'm excited to bring you guys content for next season. But this season, what a crazy season that we saw. And it's only going to get better. Looking at these playoffs, and Brendan and I will go into it on Friday, but looking at these playoffs, I do not see anybody that really ran away with everything this season where I'm like, oh, they're definitely going to win. Even the Packers. I could see the Packers are very beautiful. Beautiful. They're not beautiful, okay? Let's back up there. The Packers are beatable, is what I was trying to say. The Patriots, beatable. The Bucks, beatable. The Chiefs, beatable. The Titans, beatable. All these teams that we are seeing are beatable. I have not seen one team that's like, oh crap, like this is the team that's going to do it this season. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm very excited for the playoffs. I'm very excited for next season. For fantasy, I'm excited for you guys. I hope you guys had a great fantasy season this year. If you didn't, the beautiful thing is there always next season, right? There's always next season. So if you had a bad season this season, guess what? You can focus up, you can study up, and you can come back twice as good. So remember these tips. Remember the food for thought that I gave you. And this is the list of your fantasy leaders for the NFL 2021-2022 football season. All right, and that will do it for this year's fantasy episode. Well, football fantasy episodes. We're not completely done with fantasy yet. Don't start crying on me, okay? Don't worry, I got more fantasy episodes ahead. We will be talking about basketball. We are going to get into the basketball season. We'll probably pick up the basketball season after the All-Star break. We'll do a little bit of fantasy on the sides of basketball, but more than not, I'm just going to be giving you guys videos, just content videos on the NBA season, how it's going, updates, things like that, my perspective, my analysis, my thoughts, things like that. So we're going to go into all of that. What you may be seeing going back and forth on the screen is yes. I am here to announce the brand new, it's there. You search it up. It is there. I'm here to announce to you that I have created FantasyTimeSports.info, a website for us here at Fantasy Time. So if you don't have Facebook, if you don't have Twitter, right? If you don't have any way of kind of staying in kind of contact with us until I drop a video, boom, here is the way that you can do it. FantasyTimeSports.info it's basically our website there at Fantasy Time. We have all of it there. I have all the Google Sheets there for you. All of our videos are there for you, right? What else is there? I got the schedule for you guys. I got all the playoff schedules going into the games, right? So if you're curious what the schedule is going to look like, I got it there for you. It's all there on the website. There is ways to contact us. There's ways to actually connect to the Facebook page. There's ways actually to connect to the YouTube page. So FantasyTimeSports.info is our website. It is live. It is up there. It is out into the world. So go check it out. Do me a favor. And that is where all updates will be. I'll still post updates on Facebook. I'm gonna get back into Twitter. We're gonna expand our Twitterverse this year. We're gonna get into Twitter. We're gonna deep dive into Twitter this season, and we're gonna create a following this season. But that is for everybody else who doesn't have those two platforms. That is where you can find updates, because I will be updating it weekly. If anything were to happen, right? If like last week, you'll see that I have the food poisoning update there just because I was testing the website. So again, this is where you're going to find all the information on Fantasy Time, right? It has ways to contact us. It has ways to get in touch with us. So this is going to be the best thing for you. I made it for you, right? So FantasyTimeSports.info. Check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. It is there for you. And if at any point during this video you like what you saw, please smash that like button. Smash the subscribe button. Just tap on that bell notification. That way, anytime new videos drop, and they drop every Wednesday and Friday, you're right there to consume the content, because we're dropping knowledge all season long. It's right there. It's right at your feet, right? You just got to look down, pick it up, shove it in the head of your, shake it around, and boom. Better fantasy player and a more knowledgeable football human being, right? Because that is what it's about. If you're not growing, you are dying. So always look for the opportunities to increase your knowledge in anything that's out there. But remember, smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, just tap on that bell notification to stay up to date on all the latest content. If you want more Fantasy Time besides the website, right? FantasyTimeSports.info, right? You can follow us on Twitter at FantasyTime2021. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fantasy Guy 2021. And then you can follow us on YouTube at FantasyTime2021. The Google Sheets, or one of the Google Sheets, will be linked down in the description with all the information on it that we just covered in this video. That way, if you want a recap of it, if you want to see it again, it is there, and it is also on the website. The link is there. You can just click on it, and it will download for you. So easy, so much easier now. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys are ready for the playoffs. We are going to bring you the action on Friday, and I cannot wait. And we got a special presentation for you tomorrow. Yes, we got a special presentation for you tomorrow where Brandon and I are going to be going over all of our final grades for the season for the NFL teams. And then on Friday, be ready because we're getting into it. We are getting into it with nailing down the playoffs and what we think is going to happen. So stay tuned for that. But that'll do it for this episode of Fantasy Time. I am Jacob Cutler, the Fantasy Guy. And until tomorrow, Jacob Cutler is out.